Hey, Warpugs. So, it looks like Mr. Illustrator has been back at it again with SCP-001 when day breaks. This is SCP-343's interaction with the flesh. So, thanks to, Tat's Top Vids, I now know that this is supposed to be either a extremely powerful reality bender or God. Or somebody believing themselves to be that. In either case, I've been interested to see how this would actually go out. Now, I didn't know this came out a while ago. That's because I'm a boomer, and I don't really process information good anymore. Guys, we're going to watch this. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Please go and check out Mr. Illustrated. His links are going to be in the description down below. He has been expanding outside of SCP for a bit now. I will eventually be able to check out a couple of things that he's done. I do know that I wish I had a fragment of his artistic talent, which, you know, if you've seen me draw pictures, stick figures look like debris. It's awful. In any case, let's get into it. Let's continue the story when day breaks.
Good day, When Day Breaks fans, and welcome back. At the end of the world, this time, let's see what God has to say about all this.
Let's
Big
go.
up the patrons and members, a quick word from today's sponsor, and we'll get started.
Okay.
Escape from Site-19 is back with a whopping discount and a brand new SCP-7000 expansion pack.
Really?
Summertime is here, and what better way to prove who is the most daring amongst you and your friends than by completing a whole host of insane challenges, all in an effort to try and escape Site-19. Take your chances with the new SCP-7000 expansion pack to give you a life-saving boost as you try to escape the horrors. If you are lucky, you stand to remove lockdowns, add to your roll total, skip Keta challenges, have another go at failed tasks, stave off a game over, earn extra tokens, take on SCP-3199, and get a second roll of the dice. The sale ends at the end of July, so follow my link and get the entire Escape from Site-19 bundle.
Unfortunately, guys, this promotion is over. This makes me sad.
At the best price ever for you and your friends this summer. On the first day, Micah bowed and pulled the hood of his jacket tighter and nervously fidgeted with the seals on his gas mask. The area he stood in was an open blasted plain. The dark soil to the sides of the road betrayed that this place once bore life. In the far distance, London still burned. The nuclear fires of vengeance had done a number on the city, and almost nothing of consequence was left. The Geiger counter at his side began to click a bit faster as the winds picked up and blew in his direction. He needed to find shelter soon. But there, to the left and right of the road, was nothing but more open fields of dead soil. Micah thought about his life and how he'd managed to come to this point. He'd worked as a nuclear engineer at the Sizewell nuclear plant on the Suffolk coast. He'd been downstairs inspecting the pipes that crisscrossed the complex when everything had gone wrong. No one knew what to do. Half of them went outside in a panic. The other half, who knew better, went outside at night to find out what was going on. They discovered the moonlight carried the same curse. They all screamed in horror for a moment, and then died smiling. At least, Micah figured they'd died. Sure, he could still hear their voices pleading for him to let them back in, but he knew better than to listen.
No.
So, he put on the same clothing he was still wearing today, grabbed a gas mask, and took his equipment with him.
Go.
That was months ago. Or years? He had lost track of time somewhere along the way. It's hard to count the days when the sun itself is against you. He decided then and there that today was Monday. It was just easier that way.
Truth.
But then just yesterday, for a brief moment, a second sun shined in the distance. He knew that image anywhere. It reminded him of the countless nuclear test videos he'd studied, but this time deep inside London itself. He looked away. It wasn't his first thought, but between that and the black painted goggles on his gas mask, it was fast enough that he didn't burn out his eyes. Which was good. He'd need those in the coming days. His ears, on the other hand, well, it almost felt like they'd heard a single unified scream go up as the fires burned for hours, but that was probably in his imagination.
Doubt it.
The weather was definitely not on his side. Winds filled with the burnt remains of London came his way on the first night, and he was forced to abandon his little bunker which lacked appropriate ventilation or filters. With his plan to find refuge in the capital extinguished, he decided to head west, away from the fire. He started to walk out into the dead dirt, and eventually he found the A4. Following that, he knew he could find the ocean to the west, so he got back to walking.
Go.
On the second day, Micah's luck changed. The wind shifted again, this time blowing east. The Geiger counter at his side still clicked at him, but less intensely. Then he saw something wondrous in the distance. About 30 or 40 kilometers down the road, lights. A beacon to anyone traveling this road. He was already wary, but his supplies were running low. Underneath all his protection, carrying all the weight of his clothing and tools, he was beginning to dehydrate. He was going to have to stop and loot somewhere anyhow, and if these people had things he could use and were willing to part with them on peaceful terms, great. Otherwise, he grabbed at his handgun that was strapped to his thigh before finishing his thought. Otherwise, only the strong survive. On the third day, he was much closer to this strange place. He was close enough now to see the shapes of people, unprotected, working on some sort of outside farm. His first thought was that these men and women were some sort of trick, but as they came into sharper focus, he realized this was real. Somehow, there in the distance was a collective of people unaltered by the sun. At the end of the day, he'd arrived at the outskirts. There was a low wall surrounding most of the compound, but the gate faced the road. All the farmers had rushed inside as he approached. He heard the sound of a shotgun pumping and turned to see the silhouette of a man aiming at him from a platform behind the gate.
My name's Micah.
What do you want, Micah?
Supplies if you have them. I wasn't expecting to find people out here. How have you survived this long?
Diet, exercise. It's a great way to stay in shape.
Never you mind. Put your piece in the barrel next to the door.
I'd really prefer it if...
That wasn't a fucking request, mate. Put your gun in the barrel. Then you can come in and we can discuss things.
Yeah.
In a way, this put Micah's mind at ease. If these were somehow the monsters that he'd spotted roaming the countryside from time to time, they certainly wouldn't have need of guns, nor would they be particularly worried about being shot.
True.
So with that in mind, he put the gun into the barrel and raised his hands into the sky. The man with the shotgun pressed some switch that only he could see, and the gate in front of Micah began to open slowly. 3 other men and women, all in white jumpsuits and holding various firearms, stood on the other side of the door facing Micah. The shotgun-wielding man came to his side, shotgun raised once more.
Show us your face.
Micah looked to the sky. The black smoke from the burning cities and burning countryside was definitely fully blocking the sun today. Nuclear winter was beginning. From time to time, though, the sun could still find a spot to peek through the black, and he had to be sure.
Of course.
The mask came off.
Can I talk to your leader?
No.
At the end of the 4th day, Micah's isolation was nearly over. The men and women of Eden, as they called it, had insisted he spent a whole day in quarantine. Being unarmed, he wasn't really in a position to argue anymore.
True.
So he followed them into the underground facility marked Site 17. Men and women with flamethrowers flanked the hallways. It was nice though to get a hot shower. The food was warm and the drinks were cold, and he had no idea what the fuck was going on here. How they'd managed to put this compound together was already a wondrous feat, but somehow these men and women were able to walk around outside unprotected. He was sure he'd seen it, even when the sun was peeking through the dust clouds. Upon entry, he'd also felt something off. A presence here that was beyond anything he'd ever felt before. Like someone was watching him. It gave him a chill. He lay down in his bed and went to sleep.
Okay, so I like where this is going so far. It's just one of those situations where I don't know how 343 is going to react to him. Seeing Tat's Top Vids video on 343 gave me kind of a little bit of an understanding of 343, but at the same time, yeah, it was...
Hopefully he'd be able to meet the head weirdo of this place tomorrow.
Head weirdo.
And learn more about what was happening. At the end of the 5th day, Micah was woken up from a good dream. The constant hum of the air circulation system was strangely comforting after living without it for as long as he had. The same man from before, minus the shotgun, tossed a white jumpsuit at Micah as he stirred from his sleep.
Get dressed. He wants to talk to you.
Micah nodded and pulled the jumpsuit on. It was spotless, which already made him feel weird. But in the end it was clean, and that alone was enough to convince him to wear it. The same man who'd given him the clothing was waiting just outside the slightly open door as Micah left his room.
Where are we going?
The temple.
Fuck. He looked down at the white jumpsuit he was wearing and how it matched with the jumpsuits of everyone else. Had he accidentally joined a cult?
Yes.
No matter. They had food and water and protection. He could join them or he would eventually die. Starving to death sounded horrible. Being exposed to the sun by some tentacle monster sounded worse. Both
Especially considering how much anime some of you guys have watched, you know what that leads to.
could be avoided here, it seemed. The area that Micah entered looked more like a cafeteria than anything else. But there at the end of a table sat a man almost too bright to look at, which was odd, because the man wasn't producing any actual light. Something about this man was odd, and he made the connection between whatever it was and the uneasy feeling of being watched he'd been feeling until this point. This was someone or something powerful. Something different than the sun, but the same. He walked to the table and stood nervously next to a chair.
Sit.
Of course.
You came here expecting to do violence, didn't you?
I planned for it. I was hoping I wouldn't have to.
And now?
Now I don't want to. Nor do I plan on it.
Good.
Good.
What is this place?
My home, Site 17. Or at least one version of it. The people who used this place thought to hold me in a box.
Huh.
Then the world broke and they couldn't keep up the pretense.
Are you God?
Huh.
Some say so. Right now, I'm your friend,
Yay!
and I want you to join us.
Of course. Tell me what I need to do.
Tomorrow, you will work the farms. If you can prove yourself a useful worker, we can talk about integrating you further into our commune.
Okay.
Micah somehow knew that was the end of the conversation. He stood and left. On the 6th day, Micah went upstairs with the other workers. He'd removed his head coverings. He'd removed his mask. He trusted in God to deliver him. He went outside the wall. He went into the fields. And when the first bit of sunlight struck his forehead, there was a simple horror that occurred to him. His face started to melt. His body began to slide slowly to the ground. Why was this happening? The other workers seemed fine. He thought maybe it was his lack of faith. He hadn't believed enough. That was probably it. Not that it mattered. Then suddenly he saw a man who looked just like him walking to the next farm plot. This wasn't pleasant. It wasn't beautiful. The last thought that went through his melting brain was that God had forsaken him. On the 7th day, SCP-343 rested. The strain of making his delusions real was wearing on him. Still, he'd introduced a new person into the fold, a new worker. Everything was fine, and the sun barely came out anymore. Without his illusions to hide him, he took up most of Site 17, a melted, lonely blob of flesh too powerful to be fully taken over, but not powerful enough to resist fully, and strings of his pink mass spread throughout the facility, connecting to the human-shaped creatures he'd constructed in his madness. If he knew what he was doing, he'd probably be bothered, luring people here, giving them the illusion of safety, and then taking over the fleshy mass they left behind. But that never crossed his mind. He was God, right? It's fine. These people needed him. His consciousness travelled through the neural circuits in a single pink fleshy string. It travelled through the site, past the doors of doctors long dead, past the testing chambers, up through the administration buildings and into the man-shaped things standing watch at the gate. Micah, he'd called himself. Micah looked to the east. He saw London burning, and God wept. Check out this video for another great story, and be sure to leave a like on this video if you made it this far. It really helps the channel. Big up the patrons and members, and special thanks to Techno Ninja, GFHD, Infinitune, Kamana, Viger, and Andre Bachert.
Oh man, alive. That took a dark, dark turn really fast. And I mean fast. I didn't know what to think at first. I didn't know what was going to happen. Oh. Oh man, this is just a little bit nutty. He has gone he's gone off the deep end. Absolutely off the deep end. That's a disturbing picture. That is an absolute disturbing picture. He's lost it. Now, I wonder how the sunlight was able to affect him like this. I wonder how it was able to do this to him and what caused the madness, what caused the insanity. And these creations that he's made. Oh my god. So basically, what's happened to the world has driven him insane. Great. That's just what Earth needs right now. A reality bender with godlike powers that is off his rocker. That is the worst possible outcome. Oh man, that makes me sad. That actually makes me sad. There is so much wrong with this on so many levels, and it just gets worse and worse. This thing keeps on getting worse and worse. I had a little bit of hope last time, but that hope is destroyed. Guys, Mr. Illustrated. Oh man, this hurt my heart, this hurt my feelings, hurt my soul, hurt everything. Why am I hearing that Sheryl Crow song over and over again in my head every time this guy comes about right now? You know, and I don't know if you guys know what that is, but what if God was one of us? It is. Oh man, I don't even know what to think about this. So at this point, I'm convinced he's not. This creature is not the actual. 343 is not the actual deity. He's more of a reality bender. I think that's what he actually is. I don't think that he's actual God. I just believe he's a reality bender that believes himself to be such and has enough power where it's kind of a thing. Guys, Mr. Illustrated links are in the description down below. Go get him. Go check him out. Check out some of the work he's done in other areas because it's awesome. And I will catch you guys next time. Oh, I love this series, but it depresses me some days. It has depressed me now. It has utterly depressed me now. Oh, man, that guy sucks to suck, bro.